morning glory. Say there, stop that yawning. A brand new day is dawning. Pull up the shade and let the sun come through. Good morning glory. Spend about an hour underneath a shower and keep on singing like the birdies do.
Back in the glory days of game shows, that being the 1970s, they used to have something they would give to losers. They called it the at-home edition of the match game. So this is the at-home edition of Books of the Week. I'm not in the studio. I'm home. I've sort of invited Steve into my home. Hi, Steve Donahue of Boston. Welcome in.
Hello, everybody. I never leave my home, so it's a perfect match.
Well, it's lovely to see you on this wonderful day, and we are here to talk books and bratwurst and all the things that you people come here for. What are you doing here?
And your home is more than 300 feet from the precincts of the library, I believe was the exact wording of the court order.
My ankle, that hum you hear in the back is my ankle bracelet going off incessantly. Yes. Steve Donahue, if you do not know, and I'm sure you do, but just in case, is a book reviewer by trade, by life, by choice, by profession, by God. and writes for the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, which I had
among other places.
Yes,
the
absolutely.
Vineyard Gazette.
Are they aware of what you do here on Books of the I'm just curious if you're okay.
No, the so-called dinosaur media is not aware that even YouTube exists.
Oh.
Anybody talks about books other than in 800-word columns in print papers.
Well, it's a good place. You cover the waterfront and then some. And today we are going to cover what we do here is a nonfiction title and a fiction title, and then something called a wild card. And I think we have the potential for it to be doubly wild today. So we'll see how all that goes. But Steve, I turn it over to you to present your nonfiction title for this week. I'm giggling because I know what's coming.
Yes. This week we decided that the show had been a little too warm and cuddly. I'm sure you've noticed. I'm sure our viewers have noticed how warm and cuddly I am.
I guess I missed that meeting, but go ahead.
So we hauled out a couple of prime candidates. I don't know what my producer has in store for the wild card segment, but our opening nonfiction work will be known to you, even if for some reason you're watching the show and you don't know books, because it's been in the national news for days. It's now stopped being in the national news, but only because its author, putative author, has crawled under a rock and canceled all kinds of book publicity. This is, of course, the new book by Christi Nome, who is the governor of one of the Dakota territories.
It's like, right Dakota, I think.
I don't remember which Dakota it is. No
Upstairs
idea.
Dakota, downstairs Dakota.
I know one thing for sure about the entire state that she governs, which is that its entire population is less than the city of Boston.
Oh yeah.
She had her staff create a book.
And they did a bang-up job, didn't they, Steve?
Oh, they did a bang-up job, yes, indeed. But she's totally responsible for it because, as I'm sure you've heard, she read the audiobook herself. So she knows every word that's in the book.
Yeah.
And the book contains, you can still get a copy, but it contains large amounts of lies. And that's not its worst sin.
No.
We'll put a picture of the book up on the screen. Yes.
Oh, it's there and gone already. Christy joined us, kind of cuddled in between us at some point.
The lies of the book are not its worst offense. The worst offense is, of course, the thing that this person will now be synonymous with for the rest of time, which is that she includes an anecdote about taking a dog of hers out to the family gravel pit and shooting it between the eyes.
Puppy killer.
A puppy killer. It's a 14-month-old puppy. Killing a puppy because it was, well, you'd have to check with her for the reason why.
Because it was a puppy, as far as I can tell. Actually, it was exhibiting an amazing amount of puppy-like behaviors.
Right. Well, reason number one that she gave was that it was that the little dog Cricket was
I'm going to start crying here,
over enthusiastic.
Forgot his name was Cricket. You're killing me.
Over enthusiastic, over happy. I hated that dog. And so I murdered that dog. That was excuse number one. When that didn't fly, because of course that wouldn't fly, that is something that literal psychopaths do. One of the DSM signifiers of a psychopath is cruelty to animals. So when that didn't fly, she then amended that. In other words, she changed her lie to a different lie and said that this 14-month-old dog was endangering livestock, chickens and goats and horses and a couple of the Indian elephants that they have on.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
This dog was endangering livestock. And that didn't fly either, because a million Dakota Territory ranchers came forward and said, well, there are 10 things you do if that's true, and killing the dog is not one of them. And animal rights activists came forward and said, do you have any idea how many people would have adopted that dog? And also farmers came forward and said, danger? What kind of crappy farmer are you? A 14-month-old dog could be a danger to any livestock. And when that lie didn't fly, she escalated the lie to saying that the dog had been a danger to humans, that the dog had been a lethal danger to her children. Look, it's just a question between my children and my dog. Not only is that not true, because every eyewitness account says that the dog was friendly, and the children cried when they learned they weren't getting their dog back, but also it's another kind of thing that a psychopath would say.
Dare I say that if she had shot her children between the eyes, there might not have been nearly as much uproar, but I don't want to go there.
You see right away that this booklet, this thing that is the book,
pamphlet,
it was designed, as all these things are, to show that the author can make hard choices, that the author is a fully paid up due member of the real world. And when you hear these escalating excuses for executing a puppy, you start to think about her children.
True.
What happens if one of them acts up?
Oh boy. Yeah.
I don't know. Christi Nome has canceled the rest of her book tour.
But why?
She has canceled the rest of her book tour. So we have not yet had the experience of seeing her say that the dog was a danger to other countries, which would be the next thing that she would say. That would
the Belarusians were shaking in their shoes, weren't they?
Belarusians were. She had to kill Cricket for the Belarusians because it was a danger internationally. And I don't know if the book tour had continued. Maybe after that, the Alpha Quadrant would have been in danger. That Cricket is actually an amorphous cloud of semi-sentient material that sucks the blood right out of people. That's whatnot. I have no idea.
I saw that episode of Buck Rogers in the 21st century.
Right. I have no idea. That is the element of this book that is all anybody wanted to talk about. You shot your dog in a gravel pit for whatever reason. There is no good reason for that. As I have been told by Wisconsin's finest, every time I've taken a producer out to the gravel lot behind the studio for various reasons. At first, I would say they were just acting up. And then when that didn't fly, I would say, well, they were endangering livestock. And then when that didn't fly, I would say they were endangering, viewers.
What's great is Steve's not lying. Unlike Christi Nome, Steve is telling the complete truth here.
But the dog, of course, stole the headlines of this book.
Cricket forever.
People wanted to know why you shot your family pet in the face in a gravel pit that you apparently have reserved for the purpose of executing animals. But every once in a while, one of the bubble-headed bleach blondes, the Biffs and the Candies that were talking with this psychopath, would ask a slightly deeper question. Not why did you kill your dog, but why on earth would you put that anecdote in a book?
This is my question. This is the question of the year.
And none of them, they're all treating her like she's some sort of brain damaged grade school children. All she has to do is finish a sentence and they say, okay, let's move on. So none of them ever got to the answer. The answer is obvious. The answer is the same single answer that is the answer to literally everything that happens in fascist politics in America. And that answer is Donald Trump.
Yep. Yeah.
Who for the last 50 years has expressed his ultimate contempt for anything and anyone in one way only, by saying that it was like a dog. He choked like a dog.
Right.
He flunked his law exams like a dog. He flunked out, discharged out of the Navy like a dog. Dogs have never done any of those things.
No.
It's that plus Donald Trump got in front of a crowd on January 6th and said, fight like hell to take back your country.
Yeah.
He did that only minutes after Rudy Giuliani had said, we'll have trial by combat.
Mm-hmm.
He did that standing on the same stage with a guy who was wearing a bulletproof vest. He's wearing personal body armor under his mohair coat. Christi Nome put that anecdote in the book, fought to put that anecdote in the book, overrode her handlers to put that anecdote in the book because she gambled that the way to succeed in fascist politics in America is to advertise how violent and cruel you are.
Yep. Yeah.
To the man who will be picking people on that basis.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's why the anecdote is in the book. But the anecdote overshadowed the lies that are in the book. So, ironically enough, the one thing that's true in the book is that she executed the family dog.
Right. Which again, here we are on Books of the Week. I must ask now, because we've raked Miss Christie over the gravel pit coals enough, or have we? I don't know. How you read the book? Did you read it cover to cover?
I did read it cover to cover. I had no idea that it would explode the way it did.
Yeah.
No idea at all. And if I guess in the back, I actually mentioned it on my YouTube channel weeks before the controversy, and said that this will effectively end a career, even in 21st century America.
Yeah.
You can't brag about killing a dog.
You can't do it,
and you can. That will win you the approval of one person only, and you can't win an election with one vote.
Right.
Especially since felons aren't allowed to vote.
Right.
But the book's main offense, the thing that caught my attention, has also been getting a lot of news, which is a lie, and which is built on a lie. And the lie that it's built on is made out of component mortar and concrete that is mixed from lies. So there's no truth anywhere in it at all. And that is the complacent, smarmy, self-satisfied little anecdote about meeting Kim Jong-un, the
yes,
of North Korea.
Yes.
And staring him down. Because I've had experience with tiny little tyrants, which is not a reference to the smallness of children. It's a reference to the smallness of Kim Jong-un. That didn't happen.
No.
I don't know. Yeah. Actually, I do know. I know where all of it comes from. It comes from just MAGA, the MAGA world, which in addition to everything else that it is just stupid. I mean, there have been right-wing revanchist forces in America
sure.
that have been bad and duplicitous, but they haven't been this dumb. Dumb. Where you're talking to them, you're expecting evil, and you get a guy looking at the sun during an eclipse.
It's low rent evil. I want my evil better. This is bad.
Right. The number one thing to say about MAGA is that as Americans, we deserve a higher quality of evil. Because Christi Nome appears to think that the visitor log of the dictator of North Korea is wide open. Who's to know? You mean tell me these North Korean people keep records? You're not telling me they got video cameras, are you? Every minute of his life is filmed.
The visitor log is Kim Jong-un's gravel pit.
Yeah,
that's the visitor log. Just go.
She never met him. No, she never stared him down.
No,
She has no personal experience of how tall or short he is. She never met him. That's just a lie.
Yeah,
and an easily disprovable lie. Not only from North Korean records, which it turns out they do keep, you stupid racist, but also from North Dakota records. Right. She never did it. She never went to North Korea. No. Now, every bubble-headed bleach blonde caught that lie. They all have fact-checking departments, even Fox News.
Fox News, yeah.
They all caught that lie, and they all asked her about it. And obviously, she had been alerted by her Android handlers ahead of time that this was going to come up, and she came up with an answer. One answer only. A pre-programmed bit of computer coding. I swear, one of the most annoying things about MAGA is their tendency to do this.
Mm-hmm.
They did it with the 2020 election. I'm sure that our viewers have noticed. They didn't do it by accident. They're all morons and they're not coordinated. So they get instructions on burner phones. They got instructions from Stephen Miller on exactly what to say about the 2020 election.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people have noticed, but they use the exact same words, which doesn't happen naturally. That doesn't happen naturally. An interviewer on some news station will say, was the 2020 election legitimate? Every single MAGA, all of them will say, listen, Joe Biden's in the White House. 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 As if the listening public can't notice that they're all saying the exact same thing and that it's not answer to the question.
We need a supercut of all that.
With Kim Jong-un. She's done the same thing before she disappeared from public life. She did the same thing. An interviewer would say, I don't think you ever met with Kim Jong-un. Why did you put that in this book? Did you meet with him or didn't you? And she would say, I've been to the DMC with this she assumes this look in her eye, like she went there, with a balaclava or something. I've been to the DMC. I've been conducting foreign affairs for 30 years.
Oh, yes.
And interviewers, even some fascist interviewers, said, yeah, but I didn't ask you if you've been to the DMZ. It's not North Korea. Right. And even North Korea is not the same room as Kim Jong-un. Oh, well, I'm not asking about any of those things. I'm asking, did you meet this guy? And her answer to that is, I don't discuss my meetings with foreign leaders.
Yes. That is definitely a KTEL greatest hit, isn't it?
It's not the question. The question is not, hey, what did you two talk about? The question is, did you meet him? Did you meet him?
Did your eyes stare him down?
And the answer to that question is no, and she will not say it. She will not say it. Instead, at every turn, she says, I don't discuss meetings with foreign leaders. And no interviewer that I've seen has said to her, well, what kind of a friggin' policy is that? Are you on the American payroll or are you not? If the taxpayers are paying your salary, you bloody well will talk about what you've met with foreign people.
It's nice that the CIA took a meeting and said, you know what we need to solve the North Korea problem? The governor of North Dakota.
You don't get to be conducting U.S. foreign policy in private as the governor of a state with 15 people in it. You don't get to do that. You don't get to elbow your way off the table at Bob's Diner where you had bison meat and then fly to North Korea and conduct diplomatic discussions with Kim Jong-un. You don't get to do that. No. What kind of an answer is that?
Steve, I will say that when I'm asked about this show, I always say I don't discuss my interactions with book critics.
It's exactly the same thing. If someone said to me, have you ever been the guest on a Wisconsin podcast?
Yes.
Well, first of all, like shooting a dog, why would anybody put that in their book? I don't know why you would do that. But if somebody did that, it would be as if I said, I've been to Wisconsin.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Every single person in the world would just stop short and say, what? Okay, that wasn't my question. But what I wanted interviewers to do more was to dig in and say, well, even if that is your robotic non-answer, it's a bad one. Because, of course, you not only will discuss your meetings with foreign leaders, you're legally obligated to.
Right. Absolutely. You're right. You're on the take.
You've got some sort of private Mean Girls club with the dictators of the world? No, that's not how it works at all.
That's my next screenplay, Steve. The Mean Girls.
The only calculation behind this whole thing was I am calculating that the group of people I want to appeal to likes savage cruelty.
Yeah.
They like it for its own sake. They don't care about what it is or where it is or when it is. They like it for its own sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
And although that might be true, that group doesn't want to hear that. They might indulge in those emotions, but they don't want to know that the rest of the world characterizes them that way.
Absolutely.
We saw this a couple of weeks ago. Comedian Rob Schneider, was commissioned to do a comedy set for an arch MAGA group, got up on stage and immediately started telling savagely racist jokes. Yes. The audience stopped him 10 minutes in and got him ushered off the stage. Not because they hadn't been saying those same things at their tables over their slob, but because they don't want they don't like the idea that the rest of the world knows this about them.
Yeah.
But this is just shorthand. Same thing with this.
Prognostication time, Steve. Do you think this and others, because there has to be more of this. There can't. Christie's probably just the beginning. Will this be the undoing of MAGA over? No. Okay.
No,
I mean,
the question that some people have been asking is, will this be the undoing of Christi Nome? I think it will be the undoing of Christi Nome, although not for the reason that people say.
And probably not in the Dakotas. She may have a very healthy career, Steve.
Well, there are tens of thousands of signatures on a petition to remove her from office.
Oh, is there? I wasn't sure. Okay, all right. I wasn't sure that was underway.
And a great number of First Nations people in her own state have issued tribal edicts forbidding her from their land.
Oh, I saw that. Yes, I did see that.
Like a huge amount of her estate that she's not welcome in. She can't enter legally anymore. But people have been saying it's the end of her. People have been estimating that she did all this because she wants to be vice president to a future Donald Trump. Why anyone would want that job, considering that he tried to have his last vice president killed, I don't know. But people are saying, the pundits on this subject are saying that her chances of that are over because this just looks terrible. This whole story looks terrible. That's not the reason. I believe she is off that list, but the reason is because she was stealing the headlines from him.
Yes.
That's all he cares about. Yeah. He doesn't care about the cruelty to a dog. No. He doesn't care about that at all. He doesn't care about lying about meeting foreign leaders because he does it himself. In fact, people pointed out that week, while she was lying about meeting Kim Jong-un, Trump was telling a story about the leader of a country, big country. We don't pay our NATO dues. Are you going to protect us? And I said, well, are you delinquent? Because if you are, no, I won't protect you. That never happened.
No,
that's Trump lying about talking with a world leader.
Absolutely.
No, it's not. It's not that. It's that she stole the headlines from him, and that's unacceptable. That's why you pick somebody as bland as Mike Pence.
Yeah. Well, Christi Nome's book is out. We don't have it at our library yet.
Will the library have it?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask Sarah, who buys all our nonfiction. I have to ask her and be like, should I be buying it? Because I handle the fiction. I mean, because we have a clear-cut divider, I handle all fiction purchasing, and Sarah gets all nonfiction. And
have you had requests for it?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few already. I mean, I want to instruct our circulation department, lovely people down there, when they hand the book over and say, you into this? Huh? You like that? Because what are you going to do?
You patrons that have requested this book, there are copies of Middlemarch available.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, we have a beautiful one, actually. I know that for a fact. Well, speaking of dogs, we're going to move on to an author who at one time in his career made a dog rabid. And I wish Christi had this one, Christi and Cujo, together again. But we are talking, obviously, about, I'll let you introduce him since you're such a fan.
Yes, indeed. The new collection of short stories by Stephen King.
Here we are.
Like It Darker.
Novellas or short stories?
They're short stories. They're going to feel like 1,000-page novels, but they're short stories. One of them is actually a prequel to one of his dumb novels.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't matter at this point. It is howling into the wind in exactly the same way as would be true if Christi Nome's book had come out after Donald Trump retakes the presidency. It wouldn't matter at all. She would be doing a triumph tour. The lies and the cruelty she'd be patted on the back for them.
Sure.
It's the timing that makes it here, and the timing here is drastically against someone like me, because I don't know if you saw the New York Times book review. Do they deliver by ox cart out there?
We get it delayed, yes, but it does show up.
The New York Times book review, the foremost, highest profile book review in the country, recently did a multi-page appreciation of Stephen King for existing.
Right.
We're a review journal, but there won't be any critical stuff here. We just love you so much. And we don't just love you. We also consider you our greatest living literature. Now that Cormac McCarthy is dead, I think it's safe to say that you are our greatest living author.
Mm-hmm.
And King he's been assiduously accepting these kinds of accolades for decades. Awards from the National Endowment for the Arts or whatnot, as if he weren't a wretched schlock horror author, as if he were a man of letters.
it somehow changed in his career, because I mean, I certainly have followed his career. I'm of the age when King was, in middle school. If I had a Stephen King book under my arm, it meant that I was a troublemaker. so that was fun, And my mother distinctly forbade me, do not read Stephen King. So of course I have to get my hands on it as quickly as possible. But he was actually considered a junk writer forever until something changed. I want to say maybe in like the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden they started to heap accolades on him.
In the late 90s and early 2000s, he won a major literary award.
Yeah.
Not a science fiction, not a Bram Stoker, not a Locus award, but a major literary award. And no one was laughing. Everyone took it seriously. As if you are a major writer. You're a major author. And that has just continued.
Yeah.
There is no other explanation for why anyone would agree to publish the stories in this book.
Well, sales, Steve. that's the explanation, is it not?
I guess. And in that sense, Stephen King as a writing phenomenon is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the other major figures from his time period, which is 50 years ago, all those other figures, they still come out with books. Daniel Steele, Nora Roberts, Tom Clancy, Robert Parker, whether they're alive or not, they still come out with books. But the sales are nominal for those things, and not Stephen King. Not Stephen King.
He had no contemporary. I know he dabbled with, actually, an author I liked, Peter Straub. He did some stuff with him, but Straub never hit those kind of numbers. It was just he didn't get a boost from hanging out with King. It's weird. It's weird.
No, King didn't get a boost of any kind of awareness of how to do what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whether it's Peter Straub or Clive Barker, and he has done collaborations with better authors than himself.
Yeah,
not that would be hard, but he's done collaborations with better authors than himself, and nothing ever wears off on him. These stories are awful, just awful.
In this particular collection, we're talking.
Yes, you get a short story, the tight-lipped main character. He has all sorts of buttoned-down personal demons, but he's got them under control. And you're 2 pages into that story, and you're thinking, okay, all right, okay. I've given you a million chances. You're a terrible writer. You've never validated that choice. But here you've got this story with this setup. If you can basically avoid doing thing X, picture that's your premise for a story. Buttoned up middle-aged guy, maybe a war veteran, maybe he's got demons, but they're all suppressed, they're under control.
Mm-hmm.
Picture that premise and then think, okay, what's the dumbest, most predictable, laziest thing you could do with this story? And you're 2 pages into the story and you're thinking, well, as long as you don't do that, and he does
it. Oh no, the flying saucer landed in the backyard, didn't it? What? I don't even want to know. A mummy? A werewolf?
Communal evil. Gotcha moments that he telegraphs a mile away because he's like 90.
It's true.
You finish the book thinking, what is this? Why are any of these things even here? Why do they even exist? What were you trying to do? Even in the 21st century, even in the benighted year of 2024, surely it is not outlawed to ask of a short story or a novel, okay, are you trying to do anything? Or are you just showing up for the free chicken?
right. I grabbed a miserable little pamphlet called Elevation of his a few years back.
Elevation.
That was bad.
Elevation, sure. Yeah, because Stephen King, he's one of our greatest writers, right? He's one of our most nuanced, most layered writers. So the premise is a person seems to be mysteriously losing weight. Well, what's the conclusion of that book going to be? Well, I know what it won't be, because the most obvious 8-year-old conclusion to the book is certainly something that the most nuanced writer alive in America today won't do. It doesn't.
He doesn't. Yes.
That's, of course, the ending, that he never had any other intention of doing anything else.
Well, first off, of course, I was thinking I read Thinner in 1982 or 83 or whatever, so why am I reading it again? Oh, this is why I'm reading it again, because you're doing this.
Yeah.
So, yes, exactly. No, I see the X factor you're talking about. So it's a shame, I will say, because if he continued his entire career being a junk horror writer who sold paperbacks on the little wire, curly racks at the airport, that'd have been fine. And we could have pigeonholed him but you're right. I tuned out when they started to elevate him to this American literary whatever.
His new books now are not horror novels. Even his most squinty-eyed critics no longer talk about him in that context.
True.
If he writes a book about a giant lizard, the critics in the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal are going to start to talk about what that lizard is a metaphor for.
Oh boy! Oh no!
It is now normal, accepted parlance when talking about the writings of Stephen King that he is commenting on society.
Oh my! Oh my! Oh
Which
my.
is about as ridiculous as saying that the pigeon that lets fly on a lamppost is commenting on the power grid.
In as much as John Sayles' alligator was commenting on the fact that alligators get flushed down the toilet get big in New York.
All I can think about when I hear that is the subtext of every Stephen King commentary. You watch his books get reviewed in the New York Times, they are talking about him commenting on society. When he's not, and if he were, it would be an embarrassment.
I suppose it's like the French building up Jerry Lewis and saying when he takes a pratfall, he's making a commentary on JCPenney or
right. No. Sometimes a bad writer is just a bad writer.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, so I'm not sure how we can summarize our two books: a non-recommendation and an avoid at all costs. I guess.
Well, but about the Stephen King, I want to know the same thing as the Christi Nome. Are people wanting it?
Yes. Oh, sure, because it's King. Although, let me tell you an interesting phenomenon I've noticed lately on our hold lists and just pick lists and all that sort of thing. People like Patterson, Steele, Baldacci to a certain degree, King, they are not ruling the roost anymore. There has been a decided
that would be great.
It's happening.
It would be great if people come into the library and think, I'm looking for something that will really chill me. Where is Stephen Graham Jones?
Mm-hmm.
Not where is Stephen King?
Right.
That would be wonderful. If that started to happen, that would be wonderful.
It's kind of happening already because I see them going for other sources for their frights too, as in our graphic novel section.
Maybe we're having an effect.
Well,
if we can get people to turn away from the Stephen King section of the library, then you and I might not have to take that trip to the gravel pit.
A horror novel unto itself.
Well, if I were you, I would be encouraging them with beads of nervous sweat.
You can check it out, but I can't put it on your record because Steve will know. So there we go. Well, folks,
that would be wonderful. If that turned out to be true, that would be wonderful.
It just is a strange
overdue. Authors are out there. How do you think they feel having these frauds?
Yeah. I mean, I can't say what's replacing them is great either. Fourth Wing.
No. But at least there's no gigantic moss of momentum attached to Fourth Wing. In a year, when people who think that it's great wake up, they'll be happy to savage it.
Sure,
It's not possible to do that with Stephen King. I'm the only person in the world.
You are.
It's not possible to do that with him because he's this unbelievably, I can't even believe I'm saying it, he has become this grand old man of letters. It's so ridiculous. It's an ongoing farce.
Well, he uses great letters because he uses the caps lock a lot.
And believe it or not, you listeners out there, my producer and I are going to be talking about James Patterson next month.
Ooh, we're due. we're well overdue. That's for sure. I think we have a few moments here to maybe head into lately Steve on his BookTube channel. In case you don't know that when he's not talking to me, he's talking to the BookTube, which is a community of readers, voracious, foaming at the mouth, fanged, vampiristic readers who hover over his every word.
They watch my channel hoping that I will take some book out to the gravel pit. That's known to do.
Well, we on his channel, he's been doing a bookshelf tour, so I was inspired. I thought, let's see what's going on in my bookshelves. Oh, it's a lot of spider webs and dust, but I did find a few volumes, and you're going to love this, folks. Here's something that I grabbed from a Cedarburg Public Library book sale, which we have coming up, Steve. This is The People's Friend 1995 Annual. Do you know what this is?
What on earth?
This is basically like a quaint British Reader's Digest. This is ridiculous. My favorite here is Midsummer Madness. A nice little thing called Historic Scotland.
How did that end up in a Wisconsin library?
This is the beautiful thing of libraries. This is my favorite. This is actually what I say about Steve all the time. The man who was always there.
What on earth?
It's a crazy. I had to grab it. That's why I had the same response. I said, I need to own this because, and it's known as the 1995 annual. So I'm assuming there's hundreds of thousands of these out there, packed with stories by favorite authors.
No, so our viewers can probably tell us, or our viewers on YouTube can
in
tell
comments,
us.
Please.
The People's Friend was a kind of regular periodical. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a hardcover anthology.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems to be their version of Reader's Digest. It's quaint, it's musty, it's dusty, it's geriatric as can be, and I love it. I've read it twice now because it's so much fun.
Nope, that's a wild card Steve does not know.
Woo-hoo! I may send it to you.
The fact that I didn't know it, does that entitle me to 15 more minutes on Christi Nome?
It does not. No, that meter has expired, sir. I'm sorry. I just grabbed this recently, and it looks like fun, and it looks like my kind of thing. It's called Main Traveled Roads by Hamlin Garland. I thought this would be so Wisconsin.
Believe it or not, Ham Garland is a source of hope to me on the subject of Stephen King.
Really?
He was once incredibly popular. He was once an author where if you were a bookseller, you had to know the titles of his books. Even if he wasn't your cup of tea, you still had to know about him because your customers are going to come in asking for the one about the boy or the one about the steamboat. Sure. And you had to be able to get it for them to sell it. So you had to know what he was doing.
Absolutely.
He was also lauded as a great man of letters, even though he was most certainly not.
Yeah.
He was lauded as a great man of letters from the same source as Stephen King, The White House.
Ah, very good. Very good.
His stories are corny.
Yes.
They're crusty with the kind of over-the-top sentimentality that was the norm at the time. It's the same as you're not going to be able to see it. Most readers are not going to be able to see it because they're in the present moment. I am 50,000 years old, so I can see the present moment. Our present moment, whether you can see it or not, is unbelievable cynicism.
Mm-hmm.
And in 100 years, readers outside of America will look at literature and say, oh, yeah, I can tell that this was done in the early 21st century.
Sure.
Criticism. So it's not Ham. I'm not criticizing Ham Garland for it. I'm saying everyone wrote like that.
Yeah.
Almost everyone wrote like that.
Without a doubt. I just thought I needed, if I didn't have a television nearby and I needed a shot of the Andy Griffith Show, I could keep this in my bag.
It's a terrific book. And I shouldn't, there are Andy Griffith elements involved, but the one thing I want to do that I won't do with Stephen King is cry up the fact that Garland can be good.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to being folksy and overly sentimental, he can also be good. There's a lot in that book you will like.
Excellent.
Genuinely like.
I'm looking forward to it with yes. And then to completely take another left turn, another I haven't read, but they were sending this to the dumpster. And
Wait.
Yes.
Before we move on, I am assuming there is no Hamlin Garland at the library.
Not anymore. I have it.
So, there hasn't been a Library of America volume of him, right?
No, I don't think so. Not that I know of, certainly. Maybe another service would provide. So this edition of The Man Who Was Thursday, I couldn't let go.
What is that?
So I'm in love with this, and so there we are.
What on earth is that?
It was scratched out of our library and headed for the dumpster. Yes. And I said, no, this is not going to the dumpster. This is coming to my house.
Right. Well, for our viewers, those of you who are watching this on YouTube, first of all, like, subscribe, share.
There it is. I always forget.
Well, I think both of us automatically assume we're in a recording booth.
Yes.
I bet we get more viewers than we do listeners.
I assume we're on Venus, but that's just me.
Those of you who might have seen the weird cover of the edition here, The Man Who Was Thursday is a terrific book. It's the best thing that Chesterton wrote.
So different from what he normally did.
Yeah, it's completely different, completely assured. I think that might be the reason why it is I rank it so highly is that Chesterton has a real propensity for being complacent.
Mm-hmm.
Real, you can see it in the Father Brown stories.
Father Browns, yeah.
Those might also be the most popular thing that he did. Certainly the most popular series that he did.
Yeah.
But you can see, you can see it in his literary criticism. But nobody but me has read his literary criticism. But you can see in his fiction too how he likes nothing better than to lean back and interlace his fingers over his enormous belly.
Sure.
And that's deadly for an author.
Oh.
Stephen King has been in that position for 30 years.
Right.
That's deadly for an author because that will lead you to assume that anything you want to write is both interesting and good,
Sure.
which is the only explanation for the stories in that wretched collection. The only explanation for why they exist at all is if you think anything I do is good.
Sure.
Chesterton had that, not that I'm linking the two at all.
Be careful here now.
Chesterton had that tendency, and The Man Who Was Thursday is where he shows it the least. So
Absolutely.
you're never going to see that cover, but you.
Good
but what
luck.
about, again, I could turn the question back on you. Does Chesterton live in your library system? At all?
Just as in the Father Brown books, that's it. That's it. And this one, like I said, was heading for the dumpster because no one had any interest except a certain freak on the second floor, me. So there we go. You're gonna love this. This is the dustiest, mustiest, moldiest thing I have on my shelf in my collection. Book 1, World's End by Upton Sinclair. Book 1 of what? 9, 10, 12? I don't even know.
You're hauling out the aren't you? Good Lord. Upton Sinclair, C.K. Chesterton, Hamlin Garland. Good Lord.
I swear I'm only 53, I promise. This is
Upton Sinclair will be known to readers for one book and one book only.
Right.
He is not a good writer.
No. I can't get through this. I've tried so hard. I cannot get through this.
It's the simple truth. He is not a good author.
It's awful.
Never his one famous book nor anything else. He just can't write.
No.
He shares that with a lot of his contemporaries and near contemporaries. He had a near contemporary named Frank Norris, who wrote a novel called McTeague. Try and read it. Try and read McTeague.
Oh.
Nothing to say nothing of The Octopus by Frank Norris. Try and read McTeague. Which is, I might point out, the novel in which he's trying the hardest to be inviting.
To be inviting.
It's totally impossible. Totally impossible.
Oh, no.
Upton Sinclair, totally impossible to do.
As far as I can tell with World's End, the first 100 pages is somebody getting on a train. It took forever to get on this damn train.
Yeah. Yeah. I might also add to that roster Theodore Dreiser. It kind of breaks my heart to do because Dreiser wrote long novels.
Sure.
Sister Carrie was the most famous one. He wrote lots of memoirs about his days in the journalism world, and those are actually good.
Okay.
But his novels, try getting through The Financier. I don't think you'll do it.
I think we have that actually, oddly enough. It's some very old musty dusty edition. But what's amazing to me though, as unreadable and insufferable as this seems to be, although it's harmless, like I said, it's not, there are sentences and they're complete sentences. That's nice. He uses punctuation, but there's 9 more of these damn things.
Yeah.
It just goes and goes and goes. And I mean, it's wild.
And yet we have here, ladies and gentlemen, a perfect example of the sickness of the book world. Because this is a musty, dusty book. You already said you couldn't get through it. Your critic, who's read all of Upton Sinclair, no other critic has, alive today, has said that none of it is any good and that this book is especially bad. And yet you're not going to get rid of it.
It is a conversation piece for my next cocktail party. I have one every 30 years. So
not just me. I'm saying you should get rid of it. It's you. It's not just me. It's you. You couldn't read it. You found it unreadable, but you're not going to get rid of it.
If I can get this into my dumpster, it's garbage day today here in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. If I can get this in the dumpster by 11:30, I will take a picture and send it to you.
You won't do it. You'll come up with a reason. And yet every day, I get emails from people saying, I simply don't have any shelf space.
I didn't say this collection of mine was curated, Steve. It's just there. And actually, I wanted to end on a book I like, and I want to recommend to people. I read this almost yearly because it makes me happy, and I think that's a good thing. This is Garrison Keillor's Pontoon.
Okay, Nobody cares if you're happy.
At least of all you.
At least of all me. And C, you don't get to recommend things because they're good. That's
I didn't say it was good. I said it made.
You know what you get to do? You get to turn knobs and switch dials, and that's all you get to do.
Let me get back to work here.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
Read it anyway, guys. Okay, so
I take my Porsche to Savon's for a late meal with friends.
Is that the one you tried to run me over with last month?
I tossed the keys to the valet, the pimply-faced valet who was going to park my Porsche. I don't want him to tell me that he really likes the coq au vin. I don't want him to do that.
I've clearly breached an unwritten law here. Actually, no, it's written. Every email I get, it's written.
Yeah, it's written.
It's written.
I write it. I have to rewrite it because of rain and snow. I have to rewrite it on the wooden placard just outside the gravel pit.
If it's on the gravel pit, I will take it seriously from now on. I promise. Oh, my glasses are steaming up. This is a fun episode. My goodness.
Garrison Keillor is a largely enjoyable author. Pontoon is pure pleasure reading.
Yes.
There's no substance to it at all. You can do substance, but there's no substance to Pontoon. No. It is pure pleasure reading.
The follow-up to the Liberty, which was the trying to put together a parade, a 4th of July parade in downtown. That's not a recommendation, by the way. There's no union violation here. I'm merely stating I read it.
But Liberty had more structure to it than Pontoon.
It did. Yeah, it had it. Yes,
and the structure is winning. That is a wonderful structure to tell a story. It's a perfect Garrison Keillor structure.
Yeah, it is.
I wish that he'd worked a little harder on Liberty. It would have been a terrific book.
Yeah.
It has Pontoon. At no point when you're reading Pontoon, you're thinking, boy, the elements of greatness are here if only they were differently assembled.
Oh,
in Liberty, you are thinking that. You're thinking.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. Not Sinclair, but Sinclair Lewis. What would Sinclair Lewis have done with the premise of this book?
Yes.
A lot could be done with this. The premise of the book, as hokey as it is an analogy for America.
Yes, very much so. Mm-hmm.
And Garrison Keillor, just whether he's too old or too distracted or whatever, just the other book, the one you didn't hold up, doesn't get off the launch pad.
Yeah.
And with Pontoon, there is no launch pad. But that raises another question for me, which is, how does Garrison Keillor live in your library system?
Not great since his issues, I fear.
His administration.
Yeah.
He was canceled. Those of you
an early cancellation. He was canceled. Which is a shame because I don't think I would want to see him live now. He's really creaky.
Really creaky, yeah. But it nevertheless, his cancellation was a shame, and for the usual sequence of reasons. Mm-hmm. His cancellation was a shame for the usual sequence of reasons. Reason number 1, no one should be canceled. We're not school children on a playground. And it should not be a process that happens whether you deserve it or not.
Right.
Reason number 2, the alleged offense was incredibly minor. It warranted an apology, or if that. Reason number 3, he did apologize and has apologized sincerely and repeatedly. That ought to cancel a cancellation, and it doesn't. And then, of course, because it's the 21st century, we come around to reason number 4, which is that the original accusations were false. Right. So it's a whole cycle of life when it comes to cancellations. That it was literally a bubble of nothing, wrapped around nothing, baked in nothing.
It's like they have a clipboard and they just check off those 4 reasons as they go. Yeah. We're on to number 4. Okay, we took care of that.
Number 4, where the original accuser dies, and on their deathbed they say, "I made it all up."
Yeah, absolutely. So
we should not be letting 12 psychos on Twitter determine anything that we do or think about anybody.
I often wonder too, because he's an older white male, that perhaps NPR was like, "Oh, we're done with you," and I wonder if that further pushed things along a little faster, perhaps.
Well, yeah, that
radio-wise,
reason, but that is one other factor in cancellation is the immediate capitulation of multi-million-dollar corporations. Which that's the part I don't understand. The sequel of reasons I get. That's just human viciousness. But why Gillette would say, "No, we're going to tank our company"? Why Disney would say, "No, we're going to tank our company"? That I don't understand.
It's wild.
The immediate capitulation of multi-million-dollar industries I don't get. When they're synonymous in American history with ignoring 12 Cycles on Twitter.
Very much so. Yeah. Well, that is an extravaganza episode. We are 10 minutes away from an hour. When Steve mentioned we might go an hour today, I said, ha! Not with a producer extraordinaire at the switches and controls. I will keep this tight. I will keep this brevity. No.
Well, you know how over length we go when you start recommending books.
Yes, my 2.5 minute kerosene keel recommendation completely shattered the ceiling, didn't it? Oops, I'll never do it again, I promise. Yeah. This is really good coffee, by the way. I got it from the gas station. Anyway, 4 stars.
Yeah, but how would you feel if I held up a plastic cup of gas station coffee and started praising it? You'd be incredibly offended. No coughing with screams.
Oh my, lots of fun. Well, as always, I must say that Books of the Week is brought to you every week at this time, whatever time you're watching it, by the Friends of the Cedarburg Public Library. Now, they're a wonderful... Yes, Steve?
One of the Friends of the Cedarburg Public Library has an anecdote they are not sharing in their memoirs about also taking a treasured family pet out to the gravel pit. It was a guinea pig, which seems like overkill to me. No pun intended, but that seems like overkill to me.
I heard Ralph shot his hermit crab a few months ago. That was a little bizarre, but that's fine. It works.
Let's not start a fad or anything.
No. That damn goldfish.
I know.
He kept attacking everyone.
Yes, he was threatening North Korea.
And that's how you end a podcast, everybody. We'll see you next week. More books, more Steve. I may even be invited too. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.